Checking in again, State Representative Tackey Chan of Quincy is here with us. The end of July almost, and the end of the legislative session. Tackey, how are you?
Hey, Joe. Yeah, I'm in my office today. We're getting ready for the last 48 hours of this legislative session, subject to, of course, recall, not really recall, but, return to vote on conference reports during the next part of the, next 4 months-ish. So we do expect maybe six odd, maybe more, conference committee reports that are still pending as the conference committee members try to work it out between the three House and Senate conferees, including a major bill such as the Economic Development Bill, which we will have to wait to see when that may or may not pop up. So, it just dawned on me, they might have a little bit of an issue since all bonding requires a roll call vote. Yeah, no, yeah, we have to come back anyway. That requires a roll call vote. So certain bills like the Economic Bond Bill actually, by Constitution, requires a roll call. So and all conference reports require a roll call. So as a result, we're going to be on a basically on-call basis with no schedule going into the next 4 months of the year. And of course, informal sessions continue. And we talked about this multiple times. And you've caught me in the holiday season trying to move bills out before the close of the formal close of the entire session, which is the day before swearing-in day.
Right. So basically, Tackey, don't plan on going anywhere too far away.
You're not wrong. Either people are going to be skipping votes because they're on family on a trip, as you correctly pointed out. And this is a business where the schedule makes it difficult for long periods of time off. If you've seen me return from a vacation early before, and it's going to grind on the families a little bit. If they find out, their dad or mom has to cut their time short and do a trip to fly back here, and it's at our own expense. There is no campaign account, can't do that, and we don't have a business budget. One of the things I did was I went to NCSL, National Conference State Legislators AAPI conference just for the weekend. Left Friday and came back on a Sunday, and other states' legislatures, while they are part-time and they pay lower salaries than we do, actually have business accounts. So they actually give an expense accounts by taxpayers as part of their personal budgets inside the legislatures to go to conferences and things like that. So with us, we don't actually have a conventional business account. I do have stipends in my salary that helps pay for things, my car, my cell phone. I know I can add certain things to my campaign account, but it's just, to be honest with you, paperwork hassle I just don't want to deal with.
Sure.
In all seriousness, it's just paperwork I don't want to deal with.
Sure.
But,
no, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea of car maintenance, personal use vehicles, personal items, that's actually built into my salary structure. But I don't have like a business account where you file with, the business office to get reimbursements. So
right.
Other legislators do, which I found out talking to them whenever I go to a conference. So again, it's just the reality of how it works. It's neither a complaint nor a compliment. It's just this is how it is.
Yeah, no, I understand. I can understand that too. And a legislature that lives out like in Long Meadow would be more prone to, ask for transportation allowance than you in Quincy, right?
That's correct. I mean, the wear and tear on vehicles are different depending where in the state. And as you all know, I go to local events and occasionally I go way out of Quincy to visit other folks. For example, I went to Lowell at the request of Representative Hong to visit his small businesses in his district. So, as the chair of a committee, if a member asks to come visit their district for whatever reason on official business to talk to whomever they would like me to talk to, we do our best to accommodate all members.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we get a field trip to drive around different part of the state to go see things as part of a committee chair of various industries. And of course, running around at home. Amazingly, when I think about it over many years, I actually use my car more for work than personal. My idea of personal business is getting to the supermarket, pharmacy, and maybe movie theater.
Sure. Like everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the extent of that of my really dull life. So yeah.
There has been a flurry of activity, though, in the legislature this past week.
Yeah, we have some conference reports ready to come out. We have the so-called Protect Act that we're going to vote on today that better create some data on this undocumented immigrant ICE pickup. One of the challenges we have is that we don't know where anybody is. We actually prefer it if they are in our county or MCI system because we can account for people. One of the things, if you can imagine, is that your loved one has been taken custody for whatever reason. Forget about illegal, undocumented or illegal status. Forget that. Imagine you just have anybody's loved one taken by law enforcement, whether it be state, city, feds, whatever, and then taken to a facility for holding, and then disappears.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know where they moved second, and this applies to our situation on documents. At least family members and their attorney should know where they are. And we want at least that minimal level of accountability so we can identify them and people know where they are. I mean, imagine you had to go through that. So, we have some of that stuff reinforced the state's role regarding our engagement with the federal government. You may maybe not be aware, but the federal government gives almost no notice before they come in, including things like drug busts by the FBI. The local and state police gets like 15 minutes notice. And not to speak of past politicians, but also includes politician and government officials' corruption investigations. They don't alert the state local enforcement to about 15 minutes before they show up and make the grab. So people have this misconception that the state and local governments fight the federal government. That is a farce. But the reality is that the federal government law enforcement agencies act independently of state and local, unless it's a joint operation as agreed upon in the past.
Right.
To be honest with you, they don't trust state or local law enforcement. It is really that simple.
Yeah, it must be frustrating because family will reach out to like you as a state rep or their senator or their congressman to try and get information, and you can't tell them because you don't know. Well,
yes, and because they have legal representation too. If you're already in a application process as a refugee or seeking asylum or legal status, or even if you're in a legal status that expired and trying to get the renewal going, because it's not like the federal government moves all that quick. For those who have actually helped do federal forms, and that's exactly what I call it, like really good at it. I mean, bureaucratic slowness is an understatement. Your council can't find them, and this is, a real concern. Going to NCSL Asian AAPI's caucus over the weekend, and we had a conference, and this is one of our conversations where in other states, and not Massachusetts, but also Midwest states, political affiliations are relevant. Family can't find their loved ones because they just moved them from holding immediately to another location as quickly as possible to keep it very difficult to find. Now, you're like, well, that seems reasonable. If you're that kind of person listening to me, you think that's reasonable. I will tell you that other places that do this includes places like Venezuela, where it is still happening today, where they will take someone off the street, move them to one location, you're unable to find your loved one, and then try to move to a second location before the loved one's able to identify where they are.
Yeah.
And you can look up many articles in other countries like Venezuela and other locales where their local law enforcement or their government law enforcement, it's a little tricky, right? You have law enforcement and then you have like, special police kind of thing.
Right.
Take folks and then they just, vanish. And even the Maduro regime change, they made a little bit of concessions to the president, but more recently they've stopped and gone back to the old ways. So again, I like to tell people, put yourself in other people's shoes before you make judgment.
Yeah. So this Protect Act, Tackey, what would it do if it passes?
Honestly, it does a lot. Mostly, they see better reporting.
Okay.
To our prison systems, clarifies state and local government roles regarding engagement with the federal government in general, not specifically this one issue. To date, no state or local government has taken on cooperation with the federal government on particularly the ICE issue, to our knowledge. And we also do a few things such as providing greater assistance for human trafficking victims. There is a program that the state has with the federal government that still exists regarding human trafficking victims, regardless of legal status. In similar situations, whether it be different kinds of trafficking, I'll let your imagination decide the trafficking type. and also provide resources for that because some of the more less dense part of the state doesn't have the resources to manage it and do some more resource sharing from the larger communities to the smaller communities on that. So that's actually been brought up at the fact that people tend to overemphasize the denser populations of the state and ignoring the fact that there are indeed victims of trafficking in more sparse areas of state. And those local areas don't have the resources on how to help provide assistance to those folks. And we need a better statewide mechanism to provide that support.
Oh, okay. Very good. Legislation this week I saw regarding folks with Alzheimer's, I see.
Yeah, we passed a bill yesterday to provide some better training and approaches for law enforcement and emergency responders for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. Sometimes you see a person and you're not sure exactly what the situation is. People generally consider dementia and Alzheimer's a very old person, so to speak. But, dementia can set in at a younger age. And I think both of us have seen folks with cognitive issues at a younger age. And, emergency management and law enforcement, identifies but doesn't actually always know how to approach. Similarly, we did this with folks with autism, so-called blue card, bill we passed also earlier. So it's under that same principle of better law enforcement training for identification so they can properly respond to the situation. Again, like I said, both of us have known people that have cognitive issues at a younger age.
There's a term, actually, medical term, early onset. Yeah.
Early onset, yeah. So I think people misconceive that it's just a senior issue, and you could be in your 40s, and emergency medical shows up, and the behavior they're trying to, they can't identify behavior.
Right.
So we do that stuff. We require better regulations and codification. We actually codified some regulations that hospitals and DPH have been working on dementia and Alzheimer's care to create a more uniform system. We authorize and through DPH to set up better regulations on allowing family and loved ones to stay after hours in hospitals, and also to have emergency contact immediately by hospitals when an Alzheimer's or dementia patient shows up, so their loved ones are notified immediately, or guardian, whatever the case may be, that your loved one is here, the hospital, and this is what the circumstances are. As we've seen through Amber Alerts and other types of reverse 911 text messages, individuals, with dementia, Alzheimer's, early onset may find themselves lost. And, your guardian, loved one, caretaker, whomever, gets freaked out for obvious reasons, just like any of us would be. And, we want a system in place where if it ends up in a hospital or medical care setting, that, they can find you right away. So working on that program with DPH. We set up a whole special department who's charged with doing that.
Very good. Okay.
So, and then we also, introduce some more insurance coverage regarding home care assistance in that area, which is also very important. This is a very important bill, as many of us are caretaking. Whether it be a sibling, or aunt or uncle, or a parent or grandparent, this type of situation comes up.
Yeah. Speaking of home care, I know there's legislation too to better regulate home health care providers, right?
That one's pending. We're getting rumors around the building that we may see a conference committee report maybe today. Under the rules, we have 24 hours to vote after it's been filed. And when I mean 24 hours exactly.
Okay.
So it's filed at 7 p.m. today. We can't vote on it to 7:01 tomorrow.
Okay.
Or later. So this is, as I pointed out at the beginning of the conversation regarding the on-court notice, we're hoping that when the reports are filed, they give us, a couple of days notice before we have to come back, not like 6 hours notice.
You get paged to come back to the office as you're on your way home, right?
Well, maybe you don't get it because you're on the plane ride.
Oh, that too, right?
Yeah. So yeah, as you can tell, there's all these scenarios that are coming up regarding voting for country reports. But hopefully we may see a couple more come out later tonight and vote on tomorrow. But I can't predict how it's going to go in
No,
conference.
obviously, yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and conference committees can get completely side railed.
Hmm.
If the conversation's going well, but the last 10% of the conversation gets side railed, then the conference committee stalls
Yep.
until they figure
Yeah.
out how to get that 10% done. So a lot of unpredictability here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I saw earlier this week, the lottery is online now, parts of it anyways.
Yeah, we'll see how it rolls out. We've been talking about this for well past 2 years regarding it coming online, and we won't really see good data about whether it impacts brick and mortar lottery contractors, because that's what they are, restaurants and convenience stores and so forth. Yeah, convenience stores and sometimes a drugstore
Hmm.
have lottery, and we'll know its impact, probably for a full year until
Right.
it fully matures. I'm not sure at this. I generally think that people are creatures of habit. They like doing things a certain way. Uh,
Yeah.
and you buy your staples, and then you pick up a lottery ticket as part of the process.
Yeah, I think that's true, although it might appeal to younger folks, although I know the age limit is 21 for online, not 18.
Yeah, but it's also trying to create a new type of gambler may enjoy the novelty of it, but may not be a permanent player. So
Right.
one of the things that does happen with these sports betting or online lottery or anything else is that there's a novelty factor. You get this initial burst of players. And then as it matures, people who enjoy it will stay. People like did it once or twice and decided it wasn't for them will move on. And
Yeah.
that takes some time for that to shake out. People under the misconception that if you enjoy gambling, that means you enjoy all forms of gambling. That is not true.
Hmm. Hmm.
You may enjoy slot machines, but you won't touch a blackjack table, or you like
Right.
cards, but you're not interested in betting on horses. It is not exchangeable type of entertainment, and that also applies to addiction. People who are gamblers don't always gamble in the same thing. You may be a mahjong player, for example, if you're Chinese, but it doesn't mean you're going to go play five card stud.
Yep. No, that's very true. And people are creatures of habit, it's for sure.
Yeah, that applies to the addiction side.
Yeah, well, that's true too. Yeah.
So I think, people have this, unfortunate way of looking at it, where it's just, everything's interchangeable. It's not. And we'll see if online lottery is interchangeable to other types of gaming, and is it interchangeable to brick and mortar. Well, time will tell.
Mm, yeah. Any of your bills still in committee, Jackie?
My committee is pretty much cleared out at this point. As
Okay.
the chair, I mean, we're down to some late file bills, which will get bills constantly through the remainder of the year.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Nature of my committee in particular is that nature, and we'll have some hearings in the fall, and we have some home petitions. And depending on circumstances of the home petition, we may do written testimony only,
Oh,
because there's nobody else to testify.
I see. Yep.
Those situations, if say a town wants to speak directly to the chair or this committee staff, we can do that as well. But they need to be in the public setting, so we can do that as well. But for the home petitions, we're inclined to do written testimony unless there's some special circumstances. For
Okay.
other bills, we're waiting for it to kind of pile up a little more so I can do one hearing.
Yep. Yep.
We'll do like one a week on one bill.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's good time management, do as much as you can in the shortest period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm anticipating maybe another dozen to 2 dozen, depending on the circumstances. And as you guys all know, I don't make moans about election cycles, and sometimes people file consumer-oriented bills as they get closer to inside the election season. Actually, where that's
Right.
now, because they find an issue that comes up door knocking, and they feel need to file a bill right away. And we will see some of those consumer-oriented bills that are generated from people actually campaigning now.
Okay. I can't remember. Help me. Did the energy bill pass?
Energy Bills in Conference Committee.
It's in conference. Okay.
Yep. The House Chair of that is Mark Cusack, our good friend from Braintree. So that's still underway, and we'll wait and see how that continues to materialize.
Okay. All right. Some interesting news about the economy this week we can talk about, right? The economy as a whole grew a little bit, not as much as folks had hoped, and interest rates did not change.
Yeah, GDP came in at 1.2%. That's a little light, but also not that surprising given the fact that you had the war in Iran, and when gas prices go up, people redirect their spending. As we talked about before, grocery stores on the whole are looking at a shortfall. They're actually looking at revenue decline because people are really tightening their budgets on what they're purchasing and moving down to lower priced items, which has a ripple effect, as you can imagine, through the food industry. With the supermarkets being a retail, moving back up the chain on profitability and costs. And the K-shaped economy is continuing to be proven. Every economist studying this still reinforces the fact that people at the very high income bracket, the top 5% or so, is basically supporting the consumer economy. They're basically consuming, not quite, but closing on half of all consumption. So you got a very tiny portion of the population holding up the whole thing. While 95+% of us are trying to hold up the second half of it, showing a very big gap in spending ability tied to income. And of course, cut to government programs will impact that. So, we already had our experience with SNAP, which 20% of all grocery stores depend on SNAP. But the president also announced the end of Medicaid Part D subsidies.
I saw that. Yeah.
So if you're getting assistance on your medication through Medicaid, that's being cut, which again will shift costs as any consumer. If your medical bills go up, it's going to shift your costs regarding consumer goods, which we'll probably see more of as we go into a default period about how much people can actually spend. And fluctuating gas prices and fuel, natural gas and other fuels is going to make everyone crazy. And that includes your electric bill at some point. In fact, Quincy is aggregated, so you won't see a big flux, you won't see any flux in your energy bill. But other parts of the state, including industrial customers, may see a massive flux in their energy side of the bill because of the constantly shifting situation in the Middle East.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a big part of it. Inflation came in hotter than the Federal Reserve would like, at 3.3%. It's much better than the 4.2% it was 2 months ago. But still, it's big drop, but it's not big enough drop. And we talk about this all the time, but you and I will feel this in our pocketbook. So we're very aware of this. And then you also look at the Federal Reserve, Chair Walsh, a second press conference, they not leaving short-term interest rates alone. That's not a surprise. But what is a surprise is that 3 members out of 12 of the board voted to increase rates, which means it's more than 3.
Right.
So as part of the conversation and debate on the board, people may decide to change their minds, like anybody will, as they debate, because just because you're the chair doesn't mean you control the votes. So they're talking among themselves, trying to figure it out. Inflation continues to be an issue where going into beginning of Trump administration, inflation looked like it was slowly coming under control. And of course, now we're into year 2 of the administration, it's now spiked on up. So it's kind of one of those things where the public was enjoying a slowly declining inflation rate. Now we're seeing a uptick in inflation rate. So it adds pressure on all of us because it's just so inconsistent. And Walsh's biggest statement was, the goal of the Federal Reserve is not just talk about jobs, but also try to get price stability. And he talks about it, but, like all Federal Reserves, they're always going to be 1 month behind because of the nature of the data. It's always 1 month behind on data. So he's going to be in the same position of people, Jerome Powell and everybody else before him, that all get criticized by everybody in the public that they should have reacted faster because some reason they can predict the future.
Well, yeah, obviously the stock market was looking for some action because it tanked yesterday.
Yeah, everyone's 401ks and your personal brokerage funds is now reaching that rocky road after enjoying a very strong first half of the year. You're either in somewhat of a decline, you're in stagnation. And, a lot of it's been driven by obviously technology and AI.
Right.
And one of the reasons short-term rates is very important for big businesses, not just you and I, is because of revolving credit. And if you take a line of credit on the short side, you're paying the short-term rates, which is the higher interest, the high interest. Well, it's actually not that high compared to the other side. 10 years of 4.6 and climbing percent. So, on the other side, it's like 3.7 to 3.9, depending on what you're looking at. So, but I mean, still, it's a short-term rate. It still adds to your cost of trying to do short-term rolling credit. And it doesn't matter if you're a tech giant or you're a smaller business, mid-sized business needs temporary credit to just get by a few weeks or a month. Those short-term interest rates do matter. And if you jack up those rates on the short side, it doesn't just increase your credit cards, but also increases, mid-sized businesses as well as mega corporations ability to borrow short-term.
Yeah, yeah. I think at least some investors were looking for a hike or a talk about a rate hike just to slow things down, but no such luck.
Well, three of them already said that they want to do it, and they were Federal Reserve bankers, head of the local the reserve banks that want to increase rates. So this conversation is far over. There's Woods Hole coming up where they do the retreat in August, and other experts in on the economy to have a conversation. And the last time they had a conversation with Hole in 2022, that resulted in a massive market drop because they were actively discussing rate increases on a plan to curb inflation. So we'll see how it goes. We all know it's an election cycle again, particularly for Congress, and the president doesn't want to see massive shocks to the economy because it just hurts the party of power, because voters generally take it out on the party in power in Congress if there's shocks to the economy. Unfortunately, I think most voters should understand their current economic situation and how the party in power is dealing with that right now. It doesn't seem like they're doing a whole lot.
Right, and the Iran situation is just adding to that uncertainty.
Yeah, I always say this over and over again, which I find interesting, is that, well, Democrats are accused of taxing you and spending. Republicans just spend.
I think I saw $37.5 billion so far for the Iran war.
Yeah, they just spend. There's like no revenue component to their spending. They just spend. And I think that's always kind of the funny thing about talking about negative aspects of both political parties is that one actually spends, but we try to find money to spend with. The other one just spends. And there's no other part to that conversation. And that translates to a monstrous deficit, which under this president, the promise from the Republican Party and the president was going to do deficit control by controlling spending. Instead, they cut human services, cut state assistance. We just found out yesterday from the administration that we're no longer going to get our funding for FEMA from past natural disasters that we were approved for. And we're not sure what we're going to do about that just now, but this is how they're saving money, where there were commitments made to help us on FEMA, actually paid by a lot of folks listening on your flood insurance. FEMA is part of that flood insurance, not just taxpayer dollars. And we just got word from the Healy administration that the federal government is basically suspending funding for past committed FEMA assistance programs.
Oh, how much does that mean for Massachusetts?
It's hang on, I will tell you in one quick moment to bring up the text message. We're looking at $7.1+ million.
Okay.
Communities are affected the most: Gloucester, Hull, Mance, Marshfield, Nahant, Quincy, Rockport, and Situate. They are caused from repairing damage from past hurricanes, especially Sandy and other tropical storm nor'easters, etc. So it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it's a lot of money when we're going to be short $7.1 million in these communities that affect us in Quincy as well. So
yeah, what does that mean? Is that like seawall money, things like that?
Seawall, coastal repairs,
yeah,
everything else, and it's money that's spread out. It's not like they dump a big chunk of change on us right away. They give it to the state gives it to local governments. So,
I see. Okay.
So there's a very simple example of the Trump administration having direct impact on the city of Quincy. As a homeowner, you probably don't see it directly, but city government has to deal with the fact that it can't, that relied on FEMA money for, paying off bonds or whatever on past repairs, and now that's not going to happen. And
is that money that's been spent and they were waiting for reimbursement, or no?
Well, you kind of have to spend money if your seawall's down.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not like you leave the damage behind waiting for FEMA money to come up. You have to deal with it right away.
All right. So you have to find another source to pay that off then, right?
Yeah, the word from the healing administration is they're trying to figure it out now. Is as we said over and over again, we really tightened the budget, uh,
Mm,
preparing for a potential October 1 federal government storm on program cuts and other things. And once we get those solid numbers, we'll see how much money's left in.
yeah. It'll be October, right? Somewhere at the end of
Yeah,
October.
yeah, October 1 is when the federal government fiscal year begins.
Okay.
So, we're holding a lot of money back right now,
Yeah.
trying to get ready for whatever's coming along,
Yeah.
including, like I said, $7 million, which I'm sure is going to have to be part of some reserve account spend down the road.
Yep. 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 But there were no, I don't think there were any gubernatorial vetoes in the budget, were there?
There were none.
Yeah.
We pretty much kept it very tight. Both branches try to keep it as close or as they can to the governor's numbers. But, even folks like myself, with the speaker in the district, looked at earmark reductions. So,
Mm.
most of us got a little bit of something, but, all of us took a bit of a shave. And just
Yep.
because I live in the same district as the speaker doesn't mean I was immune from the shave.
Yeah, no, no, of course, I understand. Yeah, I think I read Quincy's getting an extra like 2.2 million in local aid this year.
Yeah, that's part of the formula. Predominantly local aid is driven by Chapter 70 funds,
Mm-hmm.
which is the Chapter 70 formula, which we've completed the 7-year component of that. The continuation of that formula will move forward until we do another change down the road. So it's about $79 million, just two things. It's unrestricted local aid, about 24-ish million.
Yep.
And the remainder is about 45 million plus. That gets you to almost 70. It's actually slightly over 79
Yeah.
dollars.
For school department, right? The education.
Yeah, just for schools and unrestricted. Unrestricted means you can spend whatever you want.
Right.
Chapter 70 must go to schools. And it does. I was looking at the cherry sheets the other day. Just we're talking about including things like reimbursement for veteran services. Like we spend $1 million on veteran services in Quincy. We spend money on reimbursement on abatement programs for real estate in terms of persons who blind or veterans. For seniors on a real estate abatement, we reimburse a part of that as well. It's not 100% city reimbursement, city covered. So there's a lot of little things going on. And, we also got some money for hazmat for the fire department, again, on training and equipment. There's like $55,000. $54,000 specific for programming at, the elder senior center. We put down about 50 grand for the Quincy High School baseball practice fields. So, we spread a bit of money out there by earmarks, not just through the local aid formulas and, other support services you may not know about. Like, for example, we support the Thomas Crane Library. We actually have a line for library. We have charter school reimbursement. Right, we have that too. So, when you add all that money up, it starts to compound. Not quite $100 million, but it starts to really build up. And other facilities that you may not be aware of is like the New England Aquarium's Marine Life Rehabilitation Center is actually located in Quincy in the Fall River. So, we support marine life and ecological support, through the state budget as well. So. It's really kind of a lot of programs that you may not be aware of, whether it be a not-for-profit agency or city government, that we find more money the best we can beyond just basic city functions, like the library, of veterans, other things.
Yeah, yeah. That's the Turtle Hospital you're talking about down at the shipyard.
I have visited Turtle Hospital.
It's neat, actually. It's a neat place.
I agree. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Also rehab other marine life too, Eric, depending on the circumstances. So it is a wonderful facility.
Yes, it's fun too. If you can prearrange a tour, they'd be happy to show you around and see the turtles swimming around those huge tanks down there. It's kind of neat.
It is very much so. So I think it's a lot of things that we don't always get a lot of attention as state officials, is how much we support our local government, as well as, all the other good causes in the area.
Sure, sure. Getting any sense yet for how like all this activity 250 FIFA is going to impact the state this year?
Well, a lot of that economic activity was right into the month of July.
Yeah.
And July, today's only the 30th of July.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I suspect sometime in September, we'll probably see the impact on that. If people can, if they want, they can look at the Department of Revenue's website regarding meals tax revenue.
Mm,
That's actually a very good indicator of how well we did regarding the various events this summer, where folks from out of state come in and spend their money.
right.
So the two areas you can look at is the hotel taxes, which go straight to city and towns, and that location is the meals tax, and do a year by year comparison. So that data should be coming up sometime like by mid-month, maybe the second week of August at the Department.
Okay.
It's all
Yeah.
public.
Be curious.
Yeah, just Google it up. You can find it.
Yeah. Be curious to see if that at least offsets some of the problems from the federal side.
Yeah, agreed. Maybe it'll help out a little bit of our revenue going to FY27. But then again, if we have a shortfall because we don't get great tourism during leaf peeping,
Mm,
October, that could be challenging. And if people are really strapped up, Christmas could be tough again.
Yep. Yep. Sales tax holidays coming up. I think it's the third weekend in August. Is that right?
It's the weekend of 8th and the 9th.
Okay.
So
Second weekend. Okay.
yeah, so 8th and the 9th, we've already budgeted in the sales tax loss as a result of sales tax weekend. Provides a small economic boost to local retailers. It is capped at $2,500, so you can't buy like a car or a boat with this and get sales tax free. And it's very popular, especially going back to school supplies. It does apply online. The online retailers should know if you purchase that day that there is no sales tax. Hopefully they know that, but it's applies to both aspects. It should be applying online because I've done this before in Amazon. It has applied online, and see how it goes. I actually do not know exactly how much we budget in on the revenue loss and sales tax as a result of this, because the very quirky nature of this economy this year.
Mm,
I don't know if the sales tax will be sufficient to increase spending during those few days. So you could look at like a $40 million loss, you could look at a $60 million loss. I'm not
right.
clear how this is going to work because
Right.
we talked about 20 minutes ago, the economy is just so unstable regarding the basic half the economy is driven by 95% of the population.
Yeah. It's not following the rules by any means.
No, it's not. Generally, 95% of the population consumes like 75% of spending.
Right. Yeah, it should be more evenly distributed than that. And it's, we haven't even talked about the impact of tariffs and what's happening with that extra funds and why isn't that offsetting the federal deficit?
Yeah, the market and the public has kind of yawned at the president's second tariff run at 10%, for another bunch of countries claiming they have forced labor practices. So we've done this before with China, for example, regarding the Muslim population in China, where basically we can put in forced labor, particularly Uyghurs. This is an ethnic subgroup in China. And the Biden administration has slapped tariffs based on forced labor. We've done this with other countries as well. That the administration feels that there rises a level of serious concern, they'll do the forced labor tariff as kind of a punishment in those countries to behave better regarding how they use their labor. Some of these countries are first world countries, which I don't know if the Trump administration has evidence of forced labor in these countries. And I think that's what's going to be tying it up in the courts. So it's very interesting how the markets and the public has kind of yawned away these neo tariffs, anticipating the court is going to intervene. And in some ways, we kind of gotten used to it, but we haven't gotten used to it at the same time because, I buy less, you buy less. We just kind of accept that's where we are right now. And I always remind folks the group that takes hardest hit on this stuff tends to be Asian Americans because the products imported from Asia, particularly foodstuffs, is quite expensive. I mean, the bag of rice is quite expensive right now compared to it was 6 years ago. So, certain demographics, are hit harder on tariffs than others because of essential staples.
I hadn't thought about that, but that's true. Yeah, I think about it for, you're not going out buying pasta and cereal.
Yeah, you're buying rice, soy sauce, and fish sauce, and that's
Yeah,
all predominantly imported goods.
interesting. Has the state budget taken into account what if the ballot question that gets rid of legal recreational marijuana goes away?
No, we'll cross
No.
that bridge when it comes to that bridge. I mean, a lot of marijuana taxes is really kind of leveled out. We
Okay.
discussed in the past about the fact that there's a saturation point for customers. And given the fact that we highly regulate the controlled substance, because marijuana is a controlled substance like alcohol and cigarettes and other things, um, it's still having a challenge meeting a price lower than the black market.
Okay. That's still yet unknown still.
It's no different from other states.
Yeah.
Everyone's in the same boat. You reach a customer saturation rate, plus you got the black market price, and people under this like bizarre impression that half the population smokes pot or eats gummies, and that's false.
Hmm.
It's always find it fascinating the marijuana argument because the pro marijuana folks thinks that there's like this billions of dollars tax money sitting out there, and they'll always stare at them like from where.
Hmm.
Because it doesn't reach a certain saturation point of like
Hmm.
everything else. And there are industry folks, particularly alcohol industry, that thinks there's massive substitution between marijuana and alcohol, and there's some proof to that in certain generations. But you can also discount the fact that you got a younger generation that is more health conscious at the moment,
Hmm.
that it reduced the alcohol consumption. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go to marijuana.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hmm. Okay. So much to think about. So little information to go on.
Well, you can't see what's going to happen until it actually happens. I just know stuff based on past experience because there are a lot of regulatory stuff in nature of the committee. And I do understand a little bit about customer behavior, as you can tell.
Hmm.
Again, there's only so much to go around in terms of dollars, and we'll see where we go.
Yeah. Legislation regarding we talked about this before, Tacky, these electric bikes and scooters and mopeds, is that still in committee?
That's actually in part of the economic development bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, last time we talked about it for 2 years, the next week we talked about it. It was like,
That's
hey,
right.
guess what, Joe? So that's sitting in the economic development bill. There's a lot of stuff in the economic development bill of public policy, which I kind of scratch my head if it is or is not economic development. For example, the Senate put a lot of criminal justice reform into economic development bill. Yeah, I know. You give me that look. Yeah, I know. I had that look too. Look,
Okay.
I don't know. But it's the Senate. I can't speak for the other branch. But that's kind of the challenge of economic development because it's become this real melting pot of random public policy that the conference committee has to work out exactly how much they're going to keep and how much they're going to get rid of.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, that'll be a discussion point for the fall.
Well, when we get a conference report, hopefully I'll have more to tell you what it looks like.
Okay. Well, be sure and call me immediately so we can do a quick tacky talk about just that, I think.
Well, as you all know, just because the session's ending doesn't mean we don't continue a conversation once a week or every 2 weeks.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Because we still have to see Tacky on vacation. Tacky in a bathing suit. No, that'll never happen.
No, that is never going to happen.
At least not in the water.
Well, as we all know, I'm not a big fan of being in the water. That is very true. But in the off season also, hopefully I'll get a bit of time off. As you all know, I've been in a lot of stress the last couple of months, and still undergoing the stress. So, well, also we got opportunities to see where we are on things that get into conferences. I mean, the National Conference State Legislators Energy Committee, I'm still on to have a conference in early. No, it's middle of November, for example. Then I'd like to actually get to. I missed the last one because of the nature of what's going on in my family at the time.
Certainly, yeah.
So those are the kind of things that are educational that I really need to get off my duff and see and visit, because as we've discovered, Zoom is great, but I love having my sidebar conversations in places where it's over a snack or coffee or lunch.
Yep.
Or grab someone 15 minutes in the hallway to talk about topics that you can't do in Zoom. You can't substitute that kind of opportunity for spontaneous conversation, because sit there and you have a thought like, oh, Yeah, and then the presenter, makes themselves available after the presentations are done, and you can get little, sidebar conversations and these questions. So, as much as everyone loves this virtual world, tapping the chat boxes in the side while doing a listening to a presentation isn't the same as taking advantage of talking to folks during a break.
Yeah, no, there is no replacement for a one-on-one human interaction. Even in today's world of AI, there's just there is no substitute for that.
Yeah, agreed. So I would like to do that, and given the circumstances, home has changed. It does free up some time for me to pursue those things, which honestly, I didn't realize how much I was afraid to leave the house.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. It's a new world. Yep.
Yeah, for me, it's a very new world, and I should take the opportunity to try to sadly discover time to do things like have maybe would like to have done for the past decade and a half that I couldn't do.
Sure. Any local in the district things you'd be? I know August Moon's coming up soon.
Yeah, there's not too much else going on, this coming weekend other than sales tax weekend. I'm trying to think if there's anything particular. There's nothing particular going on in the next couple of weeks that I can think of. I'm sure there'll be some more events down at Kilroy Square. The market's still going on. The mayor does a great job on family events through the summertime. So I'm sure there'll be some stuff in front of City Hall again.
Yes, there's a 70s and 80s dance party in August.
Yeah, they do a wonderful job with that.
Yes, yeah, and still plenty of stuff going on in Wollaston Beach too.
Yeah. Oh, Wollaston Beach. Let's talk a little about that. We had a delegation and counselors in the city collectively had a conversation with the deputy commissioner of DCR about their really bad job on notification of residents regarding sidewalk repair. No, we all love sidewalks. However, you should let residents know you're coming to do your sidewalks. And we are very, very disturbed and disappointed by the lack of notification, which the sidewalk repair will go from the length of Quincy Drive right to C Street. And when you get past Furnace-Brook Parkway, it'll be both sides of the street, C Street down to sidewalk placement. So for those at the end of Quincy Drive southbound, it is coming your way, probably sometime in 2 months. If you are listening to this, please tell a neighbor. We are very unhappy at the state delegation as well as the city and the councilors about poor notification. We'll restrain from certain words I use during the meeting. You can imagine yourselves about this process. While we're happy to doing it, neighbors, residents need to know sooner than a few days that they're coming, so they can prepare their driveways and everything else about how to manage that. Also, as part of the sidewalk repair, they're replacing the electric conduits underneath it. We are working on the streetlight problem endlessly, it feels like. And one of the problems is that the conduits, the electrical conduits, actually owned by the DCR, but the poles are owned by National Grid. And the electrical conduit problem, because of the nature of being on a beach, has been an issue. And as part of the sidewalk replacement repair, they've going to repair all the underground conduits along the way. So hopefully this is a good first step on replacing the streetlights along Commissioner Drive to get them up and functioning. Furnace-Brook Parkway is going to be a conversation I need to have in August about that. And it was also brought to us to concerns by Marymount residents and other Wollaston residents regarding speeding trucks and other issues associated with traffic issues, which we've talked to the state police about. And I'm going to have another conversation with the state police on trying to increase presence. I can't have a trooper sitting there all day or 24 hours. But if we have increased presence, it generally will deter poor driving behavior. And the street lights are signaled during the summer period intentionally to slow traffic down by activating the pedestrian lights. And that's been the case since I worked for Michael Morrissey on the signalization of Quincy Drive, but they slow traffic through signalization for pedestrian walks. So that continues as well. You may never notice it, but that actually is the reason we got this kind of start and stop in Quincy Drive. You live with it long enough, you never notice it. So we're not happy. So
did they give an excuse at least?
The excuse was inadequate. The excuse was that this is based on past practice. And our response was that is not an excuse.
Okay. All right. Did they pledge to fix that?
Yeah, they need to do this better job in the future, but in near term, we're kind of stuck. So we're not happy, obviously. We expected better from a DCR commissioner that's a former mayor, and the deputy commissioner is a former town administrator. So honestly, I had expected better.
Okay. Great. Well, hopefully we've helped get the word out here.
No, I hope so. And if you hear this and you're living Crenshaw Drive, please, share with a neighbor and the delegation and council's not pleased. I am restraining my level of displeasure voice.
Yes. Tell the DCR that they can use QATV and local heritage media to get word out to the community.
Yeah, we will let them know. I'm working really hard to restrain my unhappy voice.
All right, I won't taunt you anymore because we might have to edit that out.
Yeah, no, we really need to get some self-control over here.
You're doing an excellent job, Tacky. Of course, I can't see your hand, so I don't know what you're doing.
Well, it is Zoom, so let's just leave that alone.
Okay. And with that, we come to the end of our conversation today.
Sure. I do want to extend some condolences to the DeBona family out in Hell's Neck. Dave DeBona has passed away. Dave DeBona Jr. Passed away this week. He's the head of the Hell's Neck Community Council out there, and always been a great community person, but also a great neighbor and supporter and helpful person to everybody in the city, but especially in his own neighborhood. And I got to know Dave a little bit more over the last several years and really admire him and how humble he is regarding how he does things. And I can sympathize with the family situation because um, he's passing young, and Terry is being left behind as a young wife, as young widow, as well as the children. So I do have some familiarity, as regarding the circumstances. So my heart really goes out, and feel terribly. But he was a great guy. Never took a victory lap, so to speak, kind of person. And just gets out there and gets the job done. So my condolences and my heart's with you to the DeBona family on this really hard time. And with that, we are in the sales, as you can tell, especially the next 2 days. In room 42 of the State House, we are staffed. You can reach us at 617-722-2370, 617-722-2370. It's the landline, tackey.chan at mahouse.gov, tackey.chan at mahouse.gov. My emails is drowning in the last minute attempts to get bills out of committees. We have State Representative Tackey Chan Facebook, as well as the Instagram that goes with it, tackeychan.org. My staff has informed me there's another monster update coming to the website. They're like, some of these pictures are old. We probably should move them off.
Okay, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you're right. We probably should move some of those pictures out and update some of our information so we get more modern.
Tacky's high school graduation picture.
Yeah, we really don't need that up there. You're not wrong with some folks in this building about that. So Tackey.org is going to have a massive update. It may be offline every so often as the update continues. So you'd be warned that the website might be down depending on where we're updating.
Okay.
And legislature.gov is up. So again, I encourage people to look at that on our website to create an account, follow bills, follow formal, informal session, committee hearings. Said multiple times over and over again, there'll be informal sessions. You can watch those. It might be a few minutes or they could be a few hours, depending on what's going on. Informal sessions. And then we have Here and Joe every week or two at QATV at qatv.org. Anything you guys want to talk about does not have to be about politics or public policy. It could be about movie or sports or cooking or whatever you like to talk about. And if someone doesn't like what you sent in because we're trying to accommodate folks, well, I'll let Joe know too that you didn't like that viewer's ask. So trying to create some controversy here, folks. We're trying to create some stimulating new conversation. So send Joe along at QATV at qatv.org if you want to listen to something different. And of course, check out Joe every morning, as this 10 a.m. newscast, giving you an update on things Quincy and around the world.
Excellent. Next time we talk, it'll be August.
Yeah, it'll be more than half the year is done, and we can talk a little bit about the shakeout, what's going on in the next 2 days.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks very much, Tackey.